Hello and welcome to Gym I'm Kim from Pooches Galore.
And I'm Carla at Completely K9.
And today we thought we'd maybe do a little bit of a different episode,
Hmm.
different to normal. We're going to give you a pocket history of how we both became trainers and behaviourists, which
Yeah,
I think, because mine's quite unconventional as well. So I'm not so sure about yours. So it's good because I don't know about your journey and I'm not sure how much you know about mine. So
yeah, mine's like the complete flip reverse of what you might think it would be getting into
yeah.
working with dogs. So
So we're gonna and then if you're an aspiring trainer or behaviourist, we can tell you maybe what to do, maybe what not to do, what we did that maybe didn't work so well, things that you should be looking into. And I think also if you're an owner, it might give you an idea of what you could be asking for, like in the background of your trainer as well. Because there's lots
yeah,
of new people popping up, and so it's good to just make sure that they're getting the relevant knowledge,
yeah,
not just
mhm,
necessary qualifications, but also the knowledge as well. So yeah,
yeah.
I hope you enjoy.
Okay.
I think this is going to be a bit scary because I feel like I've done this forever. Like
Scary. Oh, is it like the amount of years you're going to have to troll back through?
yeah,
That's depressing.
yeah. Well, I was like, yeah, I think this would be a really good idea. And then,
What did you do
like,
before you were a dog trainer?
I worked in sales. So,
Oh,
well, let's get into it. So, when I was at school, I wanted to be in the Royal Navy, and then I didn't want to be in the Royal Navy, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. Like, I didn't have a backup plan. Everything was going to be joining the Navy, like everything. And
mm.
then, so I just went to uni and did psychology because I was vaguely interested in it and I didn't have a plan. So that was like, well, buy some time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
just,
Uni does that.
yeah, totally. And I loved it. I loved uni. I loved the freedom. My course was good. I was really lucky. Um, got a drinker's degree, like, didn't put loads of effort in, but it did just buy me a bit of time. But I still didn't quite know what I wanted to do when I left. So I ended up working in the charity sector. Loved that, but even now, like the pay, I couldn't buy
Yeah.
my. I know things are really hard now, but in the 2000s, I couldn't buy a house on that wage or anything. So I just went into sales because I could literally just earn some money quite quickly and get myself a property, and that was my main goal. So that's how I ended up there. But I hated it, and I was
Yeah.
rubbish at it. I was shocking. I hate making cold calls. I used to
Yeah.
lock myself in a meeting room to make them because I hated it. But what I did like about it was like the relationship building, and even to this day, I made good relationships with people that I was working with. So yeah, but sales, oh, I'm rubbish. It's
I
absolutely
couldn't do it.
atrocious.
I
Absolutely
couldn't do it.
atrocious. No.
No.
Um, but it did serve a purpose. I got my first place, and that kind of ticked that box, and that was the goal. But when I was really little, like 8, 9 years old, I wanted to be a police dog handler, like, but only working with German Shepherds and only a police dog handler. Like when you're little and you're like, I want to be an astronaut,
Yeah.
but I don't actually want to do any of the stuff. I didn't actually want to be in the police. I just wanted to be, I was obsessed, I still am obsessed with German Shepherds.
Okay.
And I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to. And to be a dog handler, I think it's still the case now. You're a police person first and foremost, and then you become selected. Well, that's quite a risk, isn't it? If you're
Hmm.
not selected,
Yeah, if
then I would
that's
be
how
doing a.
specific you want to get. Yeah.
If I'm doing a job that I don't really enjoy, and I never get to do the bit I want to do, so kind of cross it off the list. And when I was at school, working with dogs wasn't a career. There were no behaviorist degrees out there. Like there was no
No.
animal. It was kind of kennel matey type jobs. It wasn't
Yeah.
a necessarily a career that you could forge. So it was never
And
on
there
my
were less
radar.
dogs then. There were a lot less dogs then
Yes.
than there are now.
And it was quite like obedience school based, wasn't it? Like
Yeah.
when I had my dog in the 90s, we went to obedience classes,
Mm.
which were horrific. But we went to, didn't know better at the time. But
Yeah.
looking back, yeah. Um, there wasn't a job that you could be like, oh, I'd like to be a canine behaviorist when I grow up.
Mm. But I
So
guess you get to work with you get to work with dogs, which is what you wanted to do in
Yeah, I
some
do now.
form.
Yeah,
It's a bit
now,
different.
but now there's a career. But before, back in the day, that you
Back
couldn't.
here.
I don't think that there was such a thing in the 90s as a behaviourist.
No, no, I don't really. I mean, I was a baby then, so
You are not that much younger than me.
in
Don't even give me that.
the 90s. I was born in the 90s. I'm a 90s baby.
Only just.
Yeah, 1990. Yeah, just scraped it. Yeah. So you hadn't planned to be a dog professional, really, more than
No.
me. But I was like total opposite end of the spectrum in that I grew up terrified of dogs. So
Of course.
of course, I didn't have a dog in my immediate family, and I don't recall. So this must have been around the age of 6, I think. I would go to people's houses that had dogs. So I had dogs in my family, as in aunties, grandparents, distant grandparents had them. And when I was around 6 years old, there was a moment in my granddad's garden outside with a dog, and I think this dog was like I think like a Labrador cross Springer, so it had a bit of energy, I think. And I was left with the dog. The dog came over, and I was super young, didn't really know anything about dogs, and I was stroking the dog and sort of like must have pulled down on its tail too hard, and it swung round and caught me on my face, it bit me on my face. And from that point, the noise as well, it was a lot of noise involved in
Yeah.
it. I didn't have any like lasting marks or anything on my face, but it affected me so badly
Yeah, I
psychologically
bet.
until I was probably about 12, 13 years old. So that period of time, I would not go to parks. I would not go to anyone's house that had dogs. I was so petrified that my dad had to piggyback me through parks,
Oh,
or
wow.
if I went to people's houses, they'd have to shut their dogs away, and then I would have to be sat up high somewhere if they did bring them in. Like, it was sheer terror.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really anybody that would work with kids with
No,
fear at that point. Um, and then I was really, really lucky because one of my aunties had 2 German Shepherds who
literally the
were,
best.
yeah, really, really highly trained dogs, and were a little bit older as well. And they were not that fussed about people. Like,
Yeah,
Camille
they're the
was really
best for
chilled.
people who are worried.
Yeah, and so what started off the journey for me is like getting happier around them, is that I would get to sit on her dining room table. She'd bring the German Shepherds in, and I would just do some like, I was allowed to throw their ball from off the table and play with
Yeah.
them. And after a while, I sort of got used to that, and it was more learning to just be a bit more brave and sort of hide your fear a little bit, and kind of ignore them and let them sniff you. And it built really, still a little bit nervous of dogs up to the point I was about 16. So for
Okay.
me, it's like real fear
Yeah.
turned into okay, a little bit of relaxation. And then when I came back from uni on one of my breaks, I remember my mum saying that she was going to get a golden retriever puppy, and I was like, oh my god.
That's a lot.
And I think by that point I was all right. I wasn't like
Yeah.
obsessed with dogs, but I would be in their company and it was okay. And then yeah, so I had Charlie in the house, and he was, as golden retrievers are as puppies, absolute little
Devils.
hyperactive, bitey
Yeah.
devils.
Mouthy.
Um, yeah, very, very mouthy. And it just, to be honest, it just threw me in at that age. I was quite resilient going to
Yeah.
university, stuff like that anyway. And I absolutely loved him, and I got quite obsessed with him. And then I branched out looking for daycare options for him when my mum was going back to work. And then I made friends with the daycare, and then they invited me on my years coming back to come and work in the daycare.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, 30 dogs off lead in a
I
big
can do
cage,
this.
deep end, beer facing year, you know. And
A
I
little bit
did. I
flooding.
started to work there, and actually, I learned so much about dogs, and I built so many good
Yeah.
relationships. And I think, coming from a background where I was very wary of dogs and very observant from a child of their behaviour, because I was constantly like
Yeah.
second guessing what's happened. And I think I learned so much
Yeah.
about them, and such a huge respect for them for that I'm really glad in a way that happened that
Yeah.
way. And now it's kind of turned the other way. It's like I want everyone to be able to communicate better. yeah, and then I went into teaching in schools. So actually, I'm combining a teaching background, which I think I did relatively well. I just decided I wasn't that great with kids, didn't really like them that much. Um, um, yeah, with kind of knowing more about dogs and observing dog behaviour and working with them.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and then working with them kind of started in agility, weirdly.
throw yourself in at the deep end.
I set a deep end. I watched all the serious puppy videos, all the old school Dunbar, Aloft, all that stuff when I was, when there was no other immediate literature available or video
No,
available. I went to a Dunbar seminar, I went to an Aloft seminar, I went to all of these things, and I was sitting there thinking, okay, this is apparently how I'm supposed to do this, watching the videos,
it was
going,
very prescriptive, wasn't it?
oh,
It's
it
like,
was. It was a list of it was a tick list of things, and I remember sitting there with some of the stuff. Like I went to one of Ian's reactivity dogs that bite things, and the way that he was going to deal with them, and I was just like, okay, this is an idea, but I really think that that's not a good way of doing this. Like you're going to get
yeah,
yourself bitten. And then it makes you research other options because you feel uncomfortable with it.
yes,
So that's kind of where my spiral
yeah,
went. Um,
yeah. I think I was not the same as in with the Dunbar stuff, but with 𝙒𝙤𝙘𝙀𝙀 was when I started. So I got made redundant, and I remember sitting in the car and talking to John, my other half, and being like, "Oh God, I've been made redundant." I was probably crying. I'm not even gonna like. And he was like, "Right, well, you let's do 6 months. Let's see if you can make the dog walking work. Like, give it 6 months and see where you're at the end of that."
yeah.
Um, and so I threw myself into the deep end with that, but that was also at the same time that 𝙒𝙬𝙀𝙀 was really on the rise, and with his absolutely terrible methods. And I was quite similar in as much as I wanted to say to people, don't do that, but I also wanted to be able to say, do this instead, because
Yeah.
you can't just say don't do that.
Mm.
Well, you can, but it's much better if you can give them the flip side. um and that's when I threw myself into the training. But even, I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years. So I would say 15 years ago, there was hardly anything out there
Yeah.
for training, apart from quite prescriptive things like puppy classes run where you do sit down, stay, wait, leave it,
Mm.
recall, loose lead walking. And that was
Yeah.
it. You taught those things on repeat, week after week
Yeah.
after week after week. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like the free work that you would include now, and the natural behaviors and all of those things. It was very prescriptive. But
Yeah.
just like you were saying with the daycare, because I started as a dog walker and threw myself, because I didn't have any time. I'd been made redundant and we'd only had a month. I had to learn on my own job,
Yeah.
like taking out, very obviously when you set up as a dog walker, it's quite rare that you start with a group of six and you get one dog and then you think, well, I've got two now, they better get on. Like you would
Yeah.
put them
Yeah.
together. But I learned so much just doing the dog walking, taking out small groups, and like learning about interactions and who got on with who and how to make the groups work and the dynamics of those group walks and all of that. That, yeah, I think that is quite a good way to start,
Mm.
because you have to learn quite quickly.
I think as both of us are actually, we're probably one of the rare things that we do have in common of our personalities is that we probably learn really well in the deep end. I
Yes.
think we just are like, oh my God, I booked this
Okay.
thing. Now
Yeah.
it's time to practice for
Now
it.
we have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sink or swim kind of thing. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think the more you have, like, the more depth of knowledge you have, the easier that sink or swim becomes, because
Yes.
you've got more to pull on. And having it in a way where you think, right, I have to sort this out and I have to sort it out now,
Mm.
it does make it easier.
Yeah, for sure. I think
So,
like I love doing now, like I wouldn't have done, say, like six. So I've been training, I think, for nearly 11 years now. And I think 5, 6 years ago, I would never have done this. I'd have stuck very much with what are the things that I'm really proficient
yeah,
in. And I only teach that. And it's like, well, you'll never be better at anything else if you don't have
no,
opportunity to practice. So even with well, even starting agility teaching was really scary because that's an absolute flipping minefield. Like, so
I've
you
never
couldn't
gone down that
walk.
route. It literally
No,
terrifies me. I'm like, oh,
it's so vast, like, and it takes like sometimes I look back over like the 10 or so years, it must be 11 years that I've been teaching agility now, and I just think like I can't believe what I didn't know when I started. Like my wealth of knowledge is not even at like a competition level, and I've been doing it for 11 years.
It is look back and I think, oh, it'd be interesting to have some of the cases I've dealt with in the past, but do them now with more knowledge. But we've talked about
Yeah.
this before, that Dunning-Kruger effect, where you have you start doing something and you think you know it all, and then the more you do it, you realize how little you actually know, and
Yeah.
that kind of effect. Yeah. So I I started as a dog walker and then did training
Mhm.
alongside that. But I think I always knew that behaviour was where I wanted to be. It takes my love of psychology and applies it to my career path.
Yeah.
The problem I had for quite a long time was when I was starting to do all my behaviour like qualifications, was that the accreditation system was in a real state of flux, and
Mm.
it was shifting goalposts on a monthly basis. So I would get really close, and then they'd be like, "Oh, actually, what we think we'd like you to have now is a master's degree." And I was like, "Oh, that's fun. Great."
And
Uh,
expensive.
and I already have a master's degree in psychology. So I have a bachelor's and a master's in human psychology. And I could have um, just topped up my existing master's to make it well, animal specific.
Yeah.
But I'm not really that person. Like if I'm going to do half the work, I'd rather do it all and just get
The
the
full thing.
certificate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also thought at some point they could, I think I got into this mindset of they're going to shift the goalposts again.
Yeah.
So I'm going to belt and braces this one and make sure that I get what I want. And so when Alice was 2 years old, I went back to uni and did a master's. I had a
Absolutely
2 year old.
nuts.
I had a husband who worked away Monday to Friday, and I ran my business. That, when I look back now, if someone told me now I had to do a master's, I'm like, I haven't got time for that. Like,
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know how I do know how I did it, but I also don't quite know how I survived it.
Lots of wine and chocolate.
It used to be Alice, everyone comments, not everyone, that would be weird, but people comment when they're around, like how easily she goes to bed. And that is because when I started my master's, she had to go to bed at 6
Mm.
and not to leave her room again. So we had it down to a very fine art, because I would sit at my computer at 6 and work until I couldn't see anymore, and then do it all again the next day. So how I got a distinction in that masters, I genuinely don't know. But
Nice.
I'm glad I did it then and didn't wait. Got it
Yeah.
done.
I feel like with me, with my like qualifications and stuff, I really wish they existed earlier, as you I think
Yeah,
do as well. And I think it's really hard. Like if you, a lot of people I find that are become behaviorists, it does tend to be their second career.
yeah, totally.
So I think like what I tend to see is that people have come so far in their like first job. And this is my like, I might be
Yeah,
wrong in this. They, they generally like are with somebody and they can afford to kind of take a step back and come into this new
it's
thing.
yeah,
And I sometimes sort of wish that like my life stage or whatever was a little bit different, because like when you're a solo
it
female
really hard.
starting from young, like for me to even like afford my own house, I've only managed to
Yeah,
do it last year at the age of 34. To then be able to fund yourself coming into these degrees with or the any of the diplomas that are
yeah,
getting more and more expensive, I found myself in a position now where excitedly I've got two dog training businesses, but now because I'm running two dog
yeah.
training
You haven't got
businesses,
time to do the bit. They haven't
I
got.
don't have time to do the CPD that I would like to be able to do to get myself further than where I am. And I can't take a step back from the businesses because I need to fund being able to live because I've got no extra person
Yeah, it is.
to.
It's a nightmare. It is really difficult, and I think
Yeah.
that's maybe I was going to do my masters so Alice is born in the July, and I wanted to start that September, and I got talked out of it by a number of my friends who had children, who said that I wouldn't have time and it would be really difficult. And I wish I'd done it when she was tiny, tiny, because she slept a lot more and I would have had more time. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is having the time and the finances at the same time in life
Yeah.
is nigh on impossible, because if you've
It's
got the
so hard.
finances, it's probably because you're working a million hours, and if you've
Yeah.
got the time, you're not
Yeah.
necessarily earning enough to fund
Yeah.
it.
Like we had a bit of coaching with a business coach a couple of years ago for Treetops, and like I can't tell you how many hours I worked trying to go through that and developing that business. But
Yeah,
we had to also earn more to pay for the coaching.
yeah,
So it was like absolutely breaking me
yeah.
to do it. It was really good, but yeah, that really broke me. That was an entire year of complete. I don't even remember the year.
No, and that's the thing.
Um,
Like, and I'm sure that he's paid off in the long run, but
yeah.
it's finding the resources constantly. And like you're
Mm.
saying about CPD, I have to do 30 hours of CPD a year. Like in my life, that's quite a lot of hours for me to find. And to
Is this
find
to keep your
CPD,
CCAB?
it's to keep for APBC, yeah.
APVC, yeah.
Um, so which is, yeah, it's just another load of letters. But I'm I'm a little bit
But I've
overly
got
appreciative.
them.
But I've got them now, so I will keep them because they were really hard to get. Um, but I find CPD hard now, because if I want to learn about something, I will go to research. I will quite happily read research journal articles. They don't faze me. I've read so many of them in my life. It's not a problem. I'll just read through it and I'll get the information from source. So to find 30 hours of really interesting CPD that's at the level I need it to be at, that's cost effective, and that I can fit into my life is quite challenging.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have a life where I can just take 2 days and go to a seminar. Like, I don't have that
No.
flexibility. So yeah, it is quite challenging.
And if you
It
did, it's
is,
got to be worth you doing it.
yeah, exactly. And I don't want one day of somebody telling me what resource guarding is, and then one day of telling me one new way of implementing a way to help someone. I need 2 days of new ideas on how to fix that.
Yeah,
Like, that's what I
definitely.
really need, not,
Mm.
stuff. Because when you've been in the industry as long as you and I have, we know the bulk of everything, and we're just wanting new ideas and things to top up.
Yeah.
We don't want to
I
go
love
to
going
a
to seminars for like novelty things.
mm,
Novelty things that I don't really know much about or they're new. Like the predation substitution
mm,
seminar was wicked because I was like, oh, it's not really an avenue. I know a bit about it, but it's not an avenue that I've really
yeah,
ventured on. So to go away for 2 days for that, I was like, yes, this is brilliant. I'm going to have
yeah,
loads of knowledge. It's worth my 2 days going. And it really was. Um, but
yeah.
yeah, no, I totally understand you with that.
But what's really nice now compared to when we started is there is so much out there. Like, there's webinar. I get emails daily about webinar for this, webinar for that, seminar for
Mm,
this, course on that. So there is a lot more, but I wouldn't necessarily like to start working out which course is going to be suitable for longer term goals. And that's why I went for the masters. More, not necessarily because I was like, I want another one. It was more because I was like, it ticks the box, and I'm worried if I do something else that won't tick the box when I finish it, because
yeah,
I've been in that situation before, so I just like fell embrace it.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting, but I think if you're thinking of becoming a trainer slash behaviorist, or is daycares, dog walking, those kind of industries first, and just be around dogs.
Yeah. And I think
That,
like don't have this expectation on yourself that you have to completely shut off, leave your job to start up something
no,
new. Like I worked in a school 3 days a week where I was a teaching assistant, as well as what was I doing? I worked at David Lloyd as a receptionist 2 evenings a week whilst I was building up my dog
yeah,
training company. Like if you have to do it slowly or you have to learn slowly while you're doing it and earn, like I think that's the best way of doing it.
yeah,
Like take the pressure off yourself to just go like cut and go.
yeah. I
That's
would not
hard.
recommend doing it the way I did it.
No.
that was stressful. And
Yeah.
but for me, it worked because I was like, I am not getting a part-time job, which would have ended up being somewhere like Asda or something like that that I could have probably walked into quite quickly.
Mm.
Needed very little training, had hours that would suit. I was like, no, I'm gonna go all in with this. And
Yeah.
I think that that worked for me at the time because it is
Yeah.
hard to go, I've got this regular income. What I
Mm.
really want is some insecurity and
Yeah.
stress about whether I
Yeah.
can pay my bills at the end of the month or not.
100%. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I've got a final question
Mm.
actually.
Ooh.
Um, what skills from your jobs before being a dog trainer behaviorist do you think you've managed to translate and use in this job?
I think building a relationship with somebody really quickly,
Yeah.
like being able to meet somebody and forge some form of relationship within the first 10-15 minutes that
Mm.
involves a level of trust and competency. um I think, and being able to phone someone up and talk to them on the phone about essentially selling. I mean, that is, if you've got someone ringing you, you might not realize it, but if you're speaking to them about them buying your services, that's sales.
That's
And
sales. Yeah.
I will always ring my inquiries, as much as sometimes I think, oh, I hate speaking on the phone, but
Yeah.
I like to I like to talk to people. I much prefer it to doing inquiries via email. So I think it's that. But I never want to go back into sales again in my life, so I have to work really hard.
I'll sell what I have, but not what everyone else has.
There's probably a better answer than that, but that's the one that came off the top of my head. What about you?
I would probably say, I think the ability to teach a group of people was like the biggest thing. Like, because I've done it so many times, it was much more difficult to teach a group of adults than it was
Yes.
children. However, a lot of the same principles apply.
Yeah.
So being able to teach a group and be able to differentiate your skills or activities that you're teaching to suit the learner that you have. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at that in my job. I can
Yeah.
change stuff quite quickly and make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. My last job I did a lot of presenting,
Mm.
like sales pitches and things. And I think that like confidence of not really sure what I'm talking about, but I'm going to
Yeah.
do it anyway,
Yeah.
really helped.
Mm.
And that massively helped when I did my master's. I had to, when you do your dissertation, you have to do a presentation of it, and then just like you'll get asked questions in it.
Yeah.
And um, I went um, I went first on the second day, and I had literally memorized it. I am very much like an over preparer, so I will prepare more than necessary. So I had my notes, did my presentation, didn't really look at my notes because I did know my stuff. I've been doing this dissertation for like 8 months. Like, if you don't know it by then, like,
Yeah.
you can't do any more.
Mm.
And I used a questionnaire in my dissertation called 𝙒𝙤𝙡𝙘𝙤𝙤. Can't remember what it stands for now. Canine Behaviour Assessment Questionnaire or something, written by James 𝙤𝙗 in America, and it's quite standard across the industry, but it's massive. It's like 100+ questions, and you have guest lecturers coming in to assess. So it's not just your tutor like assessing you, going like, yeah,
Yeah.
didn't we do a great job? And she went, I use 𝙒𝙤𝙡 every day, and like my heart just sank. And I was like, no, I do know this. And that confidence of you do know it and you can pull it out. So even when you're speaking to someone who goes, I know this, you're like, yeah, but so do I. That
Yeah.
really helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like that, when I first started training groups, if people would question or critique
Yeah.
anything I was doing, I would crap myself. I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I've got to go
Oh
home and
no, no,
research
yeah.
it. Whereas now I love it. I love it when people ask questions because it makes me think as a learner they're interested in what is happening. It's
Yeah.
not a reflection on me, but also I have the confidence to answer the questions properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's amazing. That comes with time.
It does come with time, and it comes with having similar questions given to you on a
Regular basis.
regular
Yeah.
basis. Yeah. But also having a depth of knowledge where you might have explained it one way and they've questioned that, and then you can be like, oh, but also I have this knowledge as well that
Yeah.
I can bolster either that, or I can give you a different way because you need a different way because of you being you.
Yeah, or here's a list of examples and case studies that I've experienced where this has actually happened, and that bank grows.
It's my 3 hour presentation. Why I did it this way. Sit down, get comfy.
Yeah.
We're going all in. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. And that experience does play a huge part in that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that was really interesting. I hope everyone else did.
Yeah, I only know some of those things about you, so that was good. I feel like I know more
Yeah.
about them.
Right then. Well, we'll see everyone next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.